Hello, and welcome to our next video in the Acceleration in Mathematics series that we are providing for Louisiana. My name is Mary Davis, and I am with the Charles A. Dana Center, and I'm very excited about our content today because it's all about the role of mindset in our acceleration. So as we get started, as we always do, I wanted to talk to you about what exactly this Accelerate is, because some people pick up in the middle of the series. And so we always want to take a little bit of time to look back before moving forward. And so Accelerate is this belief, and it needs to be in our heads and our hearts that all students can achieve high expectations. All, tiny little word, big meaning. All students can achieve high expectations, regardless of their background, family income, or zip code. So our outcomes today, we're going to really look at what that idea of malleable intelligence and brain growth is all about. We're going to determine what ideas are known to be most critical to shaping student learning and academic success. And then we want to engage in these ideas in order to promote student success. As always, with our asynchronous learning, we don't have norms, we have community agreements. We agree that we are going to come as we are. So whether we're at school, whether we're at home, whether we're at the pool, wherever we are is a great place to be right now. We ask, though, that wherever you are, you take this time to really take to heart what it is that we're talking about. Remember that learning is iterative. It's not going to come one time, poof, and everything is going to come to you. It's going to have to be embraced over and over again. So you might catch something the first time you watch this, or maybe as you're talking to a colleague, you might hear something that you didn't catch that they did. But remember, that's okay, because it's that process of going over it and trying it and seeing if it works, making those adjustments and trying again, that brings that learning to light. And then finally, embrace the pause. Sometimes in the videos, I will actually ask you to stop for just a moment and do something. It might be to write something down. It might be to read something. But even if I don't, if you need a moment to really think about what we've just talked about, just hit the pause button for a sec. Embrace the pause, think about it, and before you move forward. So we have a Jamboard that we would like for you to do, and you can get a copy of this Jamboard 3 ways. I wanted to make sure that it was as easy as possible for you to get, since we're doing this on a video only. So the first way is if you have Jamboard on your phone, and you do have to have the Jamboard app, you can use the QR code there and it'll take you right to it, no problem. If you don't, then you're probably going to have to pause right now and either use the real link, which is really long, but I know that some people have trouble with the tiny URLs. So the real link is that top one, and it is a doozy. Or you can try that tiny URL, LDOE Mindset CS card sort. Okay, so just pause right now, and one of these 3 ways, get to that card sort, then start the video back up so that we can continue to talk about what you're going to do. Thank you. So you're going to be asked to make a copy of the card sort, or you already have if you've gone into one of these 3 ways. It's yours now. All right. Nobody else is going to see your work. Nobody else is going to be following your work on the page. It is an open card sort. Now, what an open card sort means is that I'm not giving you the titles for you to sort them into. You know, I didn't give you those titles, and I didn't on purpose, okay? Because I want you to see how you can come up with categories. So you're going to take the 8 cards, sort them into 2 groups that you think is the most logical way to sort them. Then you will name the 2 groups using the sticky notes. And then return to the recording when you finished it. And we're going to talk about it just a little bit. There were many ways that you could have sorted these. It is not that you had to have done it this way, but I do want to discuss it this way. So even if you sorted it in another way, take a moment to listen in and hear the difference between acceleration and remediation. First off, let me explain to you, under no circumstances am I saying that acceleration, yay, remediation, bad. Instead, what we're saying is that there is a way to present the opportunities for learning in such a way that the students' mindsets are in a better place. And because they're in a better place, it can help them move forward in the learning versus remediation, which I'm right there with you. I've done it for years, but remediation sometimes gets those students into a place that they feel that they can't get out of. So we have to be careful that if we use that remediation, we're using it in such a way that it gets them the remediation they need and then get them back to the class, get them back to that on grade level learning. That's what you'll mainly see the difference here. In acceleration, you'll notice connected to new on grade level content. It's going to be applied immediately. All right. So yes, maybe the students are having trouble multiplying and you need them to multiply in order to do what you're doing. Great. You can focus on those skills for just a brief moment to help them remember what it is that that's all about. But then bring them to the on grade level content. We don't want to take them back to that grade and leave them there. Okay. Especially you're a high school teacher. That was what I taught. You're a high school teacher. You're sitting here thinking, oh man, they got to go all the way back to fractions. You don't want to take them back to fractions and leave them there. You want to get them the help that they need with fractions, and then you want to get them right back up into the grade level so you can move them forward. And that goes for any grade level. I just use high school as an example. Because you can see in remediation, it would be the understanding that they have to master all unfinished learning prior to the grade level. Well, folks, if they're 2 or 3 years behind and they're in your classroom, you're not going to finish 2 or 3 years of learning with them and then get them your grade level as well. It's impossible. That's what I was talking about earlier. That's when those kids get in that mindset that they cannot do it. They can't crawl out of this hole. Prior knowledge. Key prior knowledge is taught just in time. Okay, again, grade level content. We want to keep that on grade level content. In remediation, they're provided all the prior knowledge that they need to begin at the beginning of a unit or the beginning of the school year. Think about this. Think with me. If you went to a faculty meeting or a math department meeting or some kind of meeting, all right, and you went to it this week, and then you went to it next week, and it was the exact same information, maybe taught in a little bit different way, but the exact same information. And then you went to it the next week and it was taught in the exact same way. Are you getting any more out of it? It's the same sense here. It's not that we don't need to revisit the unfinished learning, the opportunities for learning, but we don't want to stay there. The idea is not to stay there. Relevance. Unfinished learning is connected to on grade level core content. On grade level again. All right, do you start to see a pattern here? In remediation, we still have groups. You have some groups over here. These three kids don't understand multiplication. So we're going to pull them into a small group. All right. There's nothing wrong with that. There is nothing wrong to that. But it says they're going to stay in that group and we're going to reteach those concepts using prior grade level materials. That means if we're going 3 grade levels back to get to that multiplication, then we're going to go 3 grade levels back materials. Well, if you're sitting in a 6th grade class or 7th grade classroom and all of a sudden you're back doing 3rd and 4th grade work, what does that do to your mindset? What does that do to your belief in yourself? And finally, the pacing. Lift over loss. We want to, in fact, we don't use the word loss, which is absolutely fantastic that Louisiana has taken that it's unfinished learning. It's not loss. They didn't lose it. We're going to lift those kids. We're going to keep them on grade level. We're going to lift them up to that next level. Okay. We don't want to use that catch-up word. We don't want to use that behind or, we're going to take a test and we're going to find out exactly absolutely everything possible that you need to do before you can do what's in class. No, we want to emphasize the lift over the loss. So again, you may have had some different categories, but the ideas should be very similar because as we looked at that, we knew we were heading into this next section, which is mindset. Now, I think most of you probably have seen the mindset information that we've done with content leader work and things like that in the past. And if you haven't, it's up on Louisiana Believes as well. But we're going to approach it a little bit different this time because we really do want to keep it in the context of the work that we're doing now. All right. So let's visualize something. Okay. And we're talking about math here. So some of you guys are naturals at math. Some of you have had to work at math. But you can go beyond that. I want you to visualize something that you've always been pretty good at. Maybe it's a skill or a subject in school that came easily to you. Something that made you like puff out your chest and say, I'm a natural. Now think about something that you really struggled with, but you eventually learned it. Maybe playing an instrument, solving quadratic equations. Okay, took a lot of effort, practice, probably lots of failure, but eventually you got it. Okay, with mine, it was I played the clarinet. And I can remember my parents saying the first band recital that they came to, that it was everything in their power to give us standing ovation at the end because they didn't even know what our band was playing. A lot of effort, a lot of practice, lots of failure. But with the support, I got through it and I got better. So research tells us that both of these experiences informed your theories about how your abilities work. So if everything is easy peasy, your mind might have developed in one way, in one theory. And if you struggled but learned it, another way. All right. So one belief you may have developed is that abilities are fixed. That means we come into the world good at some things or bad at others, and we're always going to stay that way. We call it fixed or a closed mindset. Another belief is that skills and abilities are malleable, that you can learn from, improve at just about anything with enough effort and help. And usually this is called the growth mindset, or sometimes they actually use the word malleable. Every person has a mix of both the fixed and the growth mindset. There are very few people on this earth that will say, like, look at those 4 pictures. There's some people that look at those 4 pictures and go, there is no way I could ever get up on a surfboard and surf. No way. That's partially a fixed mindset. Could be based in fact, because maybe you've tried it, but it could also just be a fear or something else that's keeping us behind. All right. So research suggests that when the students tap into a growth mindset, that's what's going to help them succeed in school. Believing you can get better in math, that's that growth mindset. Believing you can get better in math is more helpful than believing that you're bad at math and there's not anything that you can do about it. So let's think about a mindset loop here, okay? We've got a little guy over here, and he says, I can learn to play the piano. Okay. He believes it. He goes, he takes lessons. He practices and practices and practices. He makes lots of mistakes. Okay. He hits those weird chords, all craziness. He plays in front of others, maybe at home, maybe at the holiday time, he plays little concerts. He gets feedback from maybe professionals as far as teaching, maybe from parents, whatever. He's exposed to different kinds of music and he plays for his own enjoyment. The results, he gets better at playing the piano. And his mindset says, I improved quite a bit. Maybe I'm ready for another instrument. But then you have another student that says, I can never learn to play the piano. I have no musical talent at all. Sometimes that's attached to my parents didn't have musical talent, my grandparents didn't have musical talent, or something along those lines, but has totally convinced herself she has no musical talent whatsoever. She stops even listening to bands with keyboards. She's like, I have no musical talent. I can never learn to play the piano. I don't want to listen to this stuff. The results, she gets no better at playing the piano, and the loop is closed by her saying, see, I told you, I just had no musical talent. It is of no use. This is why growth and fixed mindsets are so much of powerful forces. People with growth mindsets believe that they are in control of their abilities, that they can learn, grow, and improve their skills. With this belief, they're more likely to put in the action, working hard, taking feedback, overcoming challenges, understanding that mistakes are going to happen. All these things make them good at things by practicing. Actions lead to results, and the results confirm the belief. And the cycle continues upward, the lift. This is why people with growth mindset learn, grow, and achieve more over time. Fixed mindset folks will eventually hit a brick wall. They believe that their abilities, their intelligence, their skills have limits. I mean, like they're set in stone. It makes them less likely to put in the action, to do any of the work that helps them improve. If they've convinced themselves they can't do math, then why do the homework? I can't do math. Why study for a test? I'm going to fail it anyway. When they don't put in the work, then they don't get the results. But that confirms what they believed. And in that case, the loop is spiraling downward. So there's a loop no matter which way you look at it. But one spirals them up because I'm practicing, I'm trying, I'm getting better, I can do more. The other is spiraling them downward. So it's important to think about a student's view of intelligence. I've been known to throw my hands up and say, I can't do this, and walk away from something. True story, recently, I was given the hardest puzzle because I love to do puzzles. I was given the hardest puzzle I'd ever seen. The pieces all fit with each other, all of them. It was insanity, okay? At first, I was like, no way. And I slid it back into the box and I put it back into the cupboard. But I turned around and I came back to it. I knew it wasn't going to be easy. And in reality, the puzzle is still on my dining room table. But I tried. I found tools that could help. I had a magnifying glass. I had a divider so that I could divide the pieces of colors and the tones. All right. It's not a fast process at all. I'm not sure when I'll be able to use my dining table again. But I do know that when it's done, I will be very proud of myself. I could have taken the fixed approach. I could have found a 50-piece puzzle of the United States, something that I'm familiar with, and that is not a challenge for me. So read these, A Student's View of Intelligence, and think about those two examples that I just gave. When a student believes that intelligence is fixed, they tend to avoid challenges. They're going to look for easy successes, passing up learning opportunities, that easy puzzle, the one I'd done 20 times and I was so used to it. They desire to look smart at all costs. And when they don't look smart, it's not because, it's because they aren't good at that. And they worry about failure and questioning their ability. But think about that student that believes that intelligence is malleable. They pursue and enjoy challenges. They saw that puzzle and they were like, I think that is exactly what I need to do. They care less about looking smart. If they make mistakes, so be it. That's what it's all about. And they engage in self-monitoring and self-instruction. If you've never had a chance to read some of Carol Dweck's information, this came from Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. She also has a really good TED Talk if you like to just watch things instead of reading all kinds of research. Very interesting work, and I think you'd enjoy that. So let's play a game. I'm going to put a statement on the board, and you're going to tell me whether it is a fixed mindset or whether it is a malleable or a growth mindset. All right? I didn't do my homework. What's the difference? I'm just dumb at math. Yeah, I started with an easy one. If you hear someone that says that they're just dumb at something, it's a red flag for fixed mindset. There are limits though. Okay. It's to tell you that you're dumb at math is not appropriate. That's a fixed closed mindset. But to say that they're not as good in math as they are in English language arts because they like to write, that's a true statement. That's okay. To say that they're terrible at basketball because they're 4'6", well, chances are they're never going to play on a professional basketball team, but they can still get better at basketball by practicing. All right. So there's a little bit of difference there. And it's very, very important that that you take note of that. You put a lot of work into that project. Your work paid off. That would be a great thing to say to someone if you want them to build that malleable or growth mindset. Praising effective effort can help students see the work and the perseverance can pay off at the end. It's the work you're praising and the work that paid off. Oh, I've done this 4 times and I can't get the answer. There has got to be a way I can do this. It's a little bit more difficult, isn't it? It is still a growth mindset. Frustration is okay. Okay, frustration is okay. The fact that this person, and it could be an adult or a child, eventually says, I can do this, indicates that they're trying to persevere through it. And that is a growth mindset. if they said, I can't do this. This is the fourth time I've tried this. I must be really stupid at the, something along those lines. That's when it moves into a fixed mindset. That test was totally unfair. We'd never even seen problems like those. Students that tend to blame the test have a fixed or closed mindset. They want problems exactly like the ones that they had on the review or on the homework because they're used to those. Remember, we talked about the fact that students or adults, whomever, look for the easy way through things. And if you've done a problem exactly like the one on the test, that's an easy way through things. When there's a challenge on the test, that is a growth mindset if they want to persevere through a new type of problem. All the students that are at least 2 grade levels behind in math are put into their own class so that it can proceed at a slower rate. This one kind of refers back to that chart that we did earlier. This is a fixed, closed mindset, and it's not because they're put into a group. It is okay to group students to help them. The reason that it is a fixed, closed mindset is you are putting them 2 grade levels behind and they are going at a slower rate. Well, if they're already 2 grade levels behind and they're going at a slower rate, I'm really not quite sure when they're ever going to get to grade level. That's a teacher's fixed or closed mindset, that these kids cannot succeed unless they have all the stuff before. It's okay. My father wasn't good at math and I wasn't good at math. So you obviously inherited our math gene. Yeah, definitely fixed. We've all heard it. There is no math gene. There's no music gene. There are no 2 left feet. With practice, you can get better. Parent nights are excellent times to present this concept to your students' parents. If they opted not to pursue a mathematics career and are uncomfortable with the material, perhaps provide some sentence stems and questions that'll help their children when they get home with the math homework. And our last one, you are trying so hard. Yeah, this is a trick. Praising effort, we talked about it earlier, is a growth mindset attribute, but you have to be careful. Remember earlier, we praised the work that they were trying to do and we praised the effort into the work. This is you're trying so hard. It doesn't really say what they're trying hard to do. It doesn't give them that extra understanding. Just trying harder when you're learning something does not promote a growth mindset. It's not hurting it probably, but it's kind of that argument that a lot of people have about, well, is giving them a medal just because they participated really helping their ability or their learning of a topic? And so you're trying so hard just falls a little bit short. You need to explain what they're doing, how they're trying hard, and where they can grow from that. So now we're going to go into the brain. And there's a lot of brain research out there, and I'm not going to go into tons of brain research. In fact, Carol Dweck and other researchers, that's the person that I told you that you should look into, also recommend that educators demystify intelligence for their students. It's very difficult for students and some adults even to understand what's going on in their brain that makes them understand something. So one way to do this is to share details about how the brain changes as we learn. So we have the following pages, animations and a video that illustrate the neuroscience behind the learning. And it's kind of really cool because it's not going into the brain as much as it's taking a hike in the Andes Mountains. So it's very interesting, and I think you'll like it. So this is from a BBC documentary called The Human Body. And as you watch it, think about how the students could connect this with what's happening in their brain when they're struggling through something. So again, just take a moment and think about that. How would showing this quick video to your students help them understand what's going on in their mind, in their brain? Well, whenever you or one of your students works on a task, the brain uses those neurons to send information. So when a task is easy, a simple task that you do often, like standing up, sitting down, whatever, the information travels really easily. But when a task gets hard, we want to learn something new, the information does not transmit as easy. So it's the same way as going across that bridge. The first time across was the hardest. It was something new. But the more that they went back and forth and they added supports and they added the pathway and all that, the more that you do it, the more we persist with challenging tasks over time, our brains change as our understanding grows. And like early childhood, adolescence is a time when it is particularly easy to strengthen those connections in the brain. So how do you think that you might demystify intelligence with your students and with other colleagues? So hit pause for just a moment here and reflect on this question after seeing this. What are some ways that you could do this? So consider showing the video that we just showed and have a discussion about what they learned. All right, it's very intriguing way to think about your brain working. Model flexibility when approaching something frustrating. All right, remember that puzzle I talked about? I had different tools that could attack it from different points of view. I put it away for a little bit. I brought it back, but there's flexibility if it's frustrating. And then introduce some new phrases. You may even have them on the walls in your classroom. You are becoming more confident at so and such. Or I enjoy the new way you approach that task. So these are things that you can say to the students that they can say to each other to get that communication to be a growth mindset. If you're interested in learning more about this, and it includes the video that was just shown, you can check out Learning in the Adolescent Mind. It's one of our websites, and the website is there as well as the QR code if you'd rather use a QR code. But there is more evidence-based practices. There's more research, the videos there, links to Carol Dweck's articles are there. So if this is something that has just piqued your interest, there's a lot more information that you can find out there. And I wanted to provide a way for you to do so. So now we need to bring it all together. We're talking about this idea of mindset. And we talked about the fact that we believe that all students can achieve, right? This acceleration idea. So how do the two of these things unite? So I'm going to give you a chance to read this for just a moment. I want you to close your eyes with me and picture a time in your education process that someone gave you something to do that you felt had nothing to do with real life. You had no control over it. They handed you a worksheet or a project or something, and you were just like, oh, right? It's happened. I know it's happened to almost everybody. So remember, as you're planning your lessons, as you're thinking through things, when a student feels a sense of belonging, believes the effort will increase ability and competence, believes success is possible, schoolwork is interesting, schoolwork is relevant, they're likely to persist at the academic tasks. If you bring them into the classroom and you give them a packet that is 25 pages deep and goes over everything they should have learned last year, are we really going to get them to get that learning? Are we really expecting them to make those connections on their own? We need to make those connections. We need to keep them on grade level. We need to make sure that they feel success and they understand. Now, what about conversely? No relevance. Don't believe it's possible. They hear things from their teacher where the teacher says, you know, well, you can't pass this class because you don't have this, or you can't pass this class because you never made up those 3 grades last week. If it's always you can't, you're not smart enough, you don't belong, you can't succeed, they're going to give up. Why bother trying if there's not someone there that believes that they can do it? And so then they end up with poor academic behaviors and low grades. So this is basically just a picture that summarizes this. Research across a range of studies suggests that the educators, us educators, play a key role in building positive mindsets. Students' academic identities and attitudes and beliefs about schooling are strongly influenced by the school and classroom environment in which learning is situated. It's all about that culture, the structure of the academic work, the goals, support, feedback in that environment, and the implicit and explicit messages that they hear. That means that you don't even have to say it. Sometimes your body says it. Sometimes the comment on the paper says it. Sometimes a look will say it. Increasing student motivation to learn is ultimately contingent upon creating a set of circumstances when students take pleasure in learning and believe in themselves, and that the work is worth the effort. That's when they're going to learn the material. So it's that academic mindset. It's how the culture of the classroom leads to the academic behaviors. And once those academic behaviors, remember the cycle, once they start to believe that if I study, if I do the homework, if I go to the whatever, the class every day, if I do all those things, then my academic outcomes will start going up. Then I start to believe I can do it. Then you know what I'm saying? That cycle that we talked about earlier. Same thing here. So we have an article for you to read. And again, I've given you 3 different ways that you can download it. This one is just an article on the web. So if you just want to read it on your phone, you can use the QR code. The long address is the actual address. And then I also made a tiny URL for it. And I did not print this out for you on purpose because in the article itself, there are links to go to other information. So although right now we're going to just read the article and talk about the article, when you have an opportunity, you may want to go back further and go deeper into some of these different links that they have in the article. Because the first time I read this, I got lost in the links, and I think you might too. So here's what you're going to do. I want you to get out a sheet of paper, and as you read the article, it's not that long of an article. I want you to think about ideas and information presented that connected with what you already do know, what you already have either learned today or that you already knew what was happening in the classroom. So what was that connection piece? What new ideas did you get that extended your thinking into new directions? And then what challenges or puzzles have come up in your mind from the ideas that you read here? You know, sometimes an article will really inspire, and other times it just challenges us to think deeper about the ideas. And so maybe this one has some challenges for you. So as you read, just individually record your personal connections, extensions, and challenges. If you have the opportunity, you might do this in your grade level or PLC time so that you could talk about it a little bit. But take some time now and read through this article. So pause the recording and then we'll continue together. Thank you for taking that time. We asked some folks at the Dana Center and we asked some folks in Louisiana to read this ahead of time, since we knew it was going to be asynchronous learning and we wouldn't have that opportunity to talk through what they've learned. We wanted to share some reflections with you. One person responded, "One thing that struck me is that the student did learn many things during the pandemic. The students did learn many things during the pandemic. Learning loss has been discussed widely, but the students did learn many things through the hardships." Anybody have some connections to that? The family dynamics, the support systems, that emotional and academic success or lack thereof. The next person said that they liked the quote, and this was a really interesting quote. "The more you get inundated with deficit-based language, the more that becomes your focus." Oh, wow. So true. The more someone like really beats you into the ground, the more you don't want to get back up again. Negative impact on their self-confidence, on their self-worth, and on motivation. This person has a child with autism, and so made the reference to the National Center for Learning Disabilities. But last year we had our children at home, right? So we had like all these plates in the air. We were teaching our students online. We had our students at home that we were trying to teach. And what we need to realize is that back in the very first slide that I showed, that little word all, it's a learning disability, benefits normal students as well. It truly creates an environment where all students can learn. It's all students. Remember, we talked about that earlier on. And then this one, the big green lettering, okay, really made a connection to me. If we just keep building the kids up without giving them challenging work, it's like building a sand castle close to the shore. It's going to fall apart. It is going to fall apart with the first big wave. So it's important to give them the support and the positivity and the praise of their effort, but it just can't be for nothing. You know, we need to give them that challenging work and believe that they can get it done. So then we moved into extensions for these folks. So this person was making the connections between the RTI frameworks and how do we shift away from RTI frameworks and how long will it take? What's going to be the pushback? You know, sometimes we're so ingrained in what we're doing that it's difficult to make a turn, even if it's for the best. And I think that's what this person was saying. I like the resource. The links to relevant research was also a tool that helped me see where these ideas were pulled. So the extensions for this person was actually going into some of those other links, which is what I told you might want to do later on. It adds data to the arguments that you, and I don't think the word arguments is probably meant like arguments, but data to the discussions that you have with your parents or other stakeholders, okay? I was optimistic in the idea of closing equity gaps. You know, we didn't even really talk about that. But this whole idea of keeping kids on grade level and making sure that that spiral is moving upward for all students, that's all about equity. And then finally, I think this is finally, high dosage tutoring. What does it look like? How can it be incorporated? There's not unlimited resources, most definitely. We need to understand that we want all students to succeed, but it's going to take different levels of support for the different students. And I think that's what this is all about. The ones that really need help sometimes take up like literally everything you got. And I'm talking about the time, your energy, everything. And sometimes that leaves the ones that are either in the Midland or they're on level or above might not have as much of you. So we need to be careful about that. I like that as an extension. And there's some common areas we can begin to champion equity for all. The extension came from number 5, provide opportunities to develop future-ready skills. This teacher said, I not only have to get them ready for the next few years, but for future skills. And then this last statement, I really liked it. When I was in school, who knew that a future skill would be teaching something on something called Zoom? Wow. No one got me ready for this when I was in school. And then finally, challenges. Are the teachers really planning? It's a challenge. It's a concern. We need to make sure that we are giving the time to it, but we need to make sure that the teachers are using that time. So effective planning is important. The challenge in the format of getting all students and parents to engage. Yeah, all students and parents. It's important that we realize that we've got a lot of stakeholders here, the teachers, the administrators, the counselors, the students, the parents, and we need to address them all. As we plan, we must be cognizant that disruptions to learning do not impact all learners equally. This person listed it as a challenge. The other folks listed it as an extension, but we have to realize that students come from different backgrounds, different socioeconomic areas, different family dynamics, different languages. And so we need to realize that, yes, we need to help them achieve, help them persevere, but we need to do it so that it's equal or equity across, so that it doesn't start to make those fissures even bigger in some of those areas. It's a big challenge. So building this classroom culture, the first and foremost, the reason that it's red and it's bolded is because it is like the most important piece of the puzzle. Above all else, teachers and students must believe that everyone can learn math at high levels. And I'd even go beyond that. I'd go to parents. I'd go to administrators. You know, you got to get the word out there. Everyone can learn math at high levels. Belonging is particularly important in an educational context because human learning is socially constructed. We come to understand the world through our interaction with others. Students with a strong sense of academic belonging see themselves as members of this social community and the intellectual community. They interpret setbacks and difficulty in their studies as a normal part of learning, rather than as signs that they are out of place in a particular academic environment. What about belief? Self-efficacy refers to your belief in your ability to execute behaviors necessary to produce specific performance and attainments. So, for example, for students to expend the sustained effort necessary for learning, they must believe that their efforts can and will be successful. If students only anticipate failure or believe that they cannot do it well, they're not going to invest. If you can't say that top line on there, I can succeed at this, if you don't believe that, then chances are you're not going to succeed at it. And finally on this page is value. Students value academic tasks and topics that connect in some way to their lives. And I'm not talking about a word problem that talks about their name of their street or their dog. I'm talking about topics that connect to their lives or their future educational careers or their current interests. When students value their coursework, they're much more likely to expend effort on completing it. The value a student places on a given academic task is strongly associated with both persistence and performance on that task. They need to be able to make meaning of what they're doing. It needs to connect to their lives as they know it, not as you think that it should be, not as it was when you were growing up. So academic mindsets are critical levers for increasing student engagement and persistence necessary to develop other deeper learning competencies. Educators, remember, educators play a key role, we do, in building positive mindsets. Students' academic identities and attitudes and beliefs about schooling are strongly influenced by the school and the classroom environment in which it is situated. It's the culture of your classroom, of your school, of your district. So I want you to think about just a few ways that you can say some things that might help with the malleable growth mindset. I like the way you tried all kinds of strategies until you found the one that worked for you. That's basically saying you made 12 mistakes before you found one that works, but you're saying it in such a way that you're like, I like all the kinds of strategies that you tried. Okay. Steer clear of like, wow, you did great on that math problem. You must be a whiz at math. What? Especially if they really worked hard at it and then you say that they're a whiz at it. Or the second one, and I will tell you that I was so guilty of this one. See, I told you that was an easy question. You're so smart. We have to start telling them that it's all about their smartness and what they have internally. It's how they work at it. It's those strategies. It's keeping at it. Like the second one on the left. It was a long, hard assignment, but you stuck with it and got it done. That's great. Instead of, nice job, you got an A without even trying. I like the effort you put in. Let's work together some more and figure out what you don't understand. Okay? It's not saying it's perfect. It's not saying the effort alone is what needs to be discussed. It's saying, I like the effort. You've been working really hard on this. Let's go in together and see if we can figure out a tweak that needs to be made. And then, of course, the math gene comment over on the right that I used earlier as well. So to sum it all up, if we look back at acceleration and remediation, remember, one is not good and one is not bad. That is not the point that I gave you these. The point is acceleration keeps it on grade level, keeps that just-in-time instruction, keeps them, they may be in small groups, they may be working on something to catch them up, but then they are immediately brought back to grade level material. And then we talk about those, the cycle, it's talking about the emphasize the lift, the cycle that's taking them up positively versus that the cycle that takes them down negatively. All right. So let's look at some of the words connected on grade level. Moving forward, motivation, retention, liftover loss, and forward momentum. These are all words that can really help with a positive growth mindset. And I'm not saying it's only on the acceleration side. We have small groups to reteach concepts, but remember, we need to bring them back to the grade level. Meet them where they are, but bring them back to grade level. Understand there's some disparities in there, but the idea is to get them back because we believe that all students can achieve high mathematical achievement. So as we finish today, I want to bring up one more video here. And I ask you to visualize something that you've always been pretty good at. Remember, maybe it's a skill, a subject in school. Remember, I'm a natural. So were you proud of yourself? If you're a natural at it, were you able to puff up your chest and say, yeah, I worked hard at that? It's not as easy because you didn't really do that much if it came that naturally to you. So as we watch this video, I ask you to think about that you, the proud, the confident you. Okay? Then listen to the words of this coach that's saying anything you do is dependent on how you see you. Yes, mindset is that important. As we close up today, I just want to repeat that couple of words that he said. Anything you do is dependent on how you see you. Make it a great day, Louisiana. Thanks for being here with me.